Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about building and developing relationship with our employer, our patient. And I'll just remind you briefly that on Thursday, last time we met, we spoke about culture and values and relationships and in our work. And again, I just want to say that for the next hour and a half, I'm going to talk about building and developing relationship, and I invite you to participate and share your questions, thoughts, dilemmas, and experiences with each other. We all learn from each other, which is also very important. And the purpose of us here on the CME team in this orientation program, we actually care for the caregivers. And so this is for you. And this format of a group is also a way for you to build a relationship with other caregivers and to have a professional sounding off group that you can, deliberate with and so on. So as I said, on Thursday last week, I spoke about values and culture. And today I want to talk about developing the relationship. And as you know, I've stressed in the past, our personality is our toolbox. And the better people we are, the more sensitive we are, the more attuned we are, the more attentive we are to ourselves, to our surroundings, and of course to our employer, the better caregivers we are. And of course, we're going to be better people. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. So let's see what that is all about. Building and developing relationships with our patient. Several steps involved. Creating good communication, coordination of expectations, building trust, creating the Caregiving Alliance, and taking into account social and cultural components. So we tend to think that there are universally types of communication styles, and that is not related to culture, but more to personality types that we see all across all cultures. And I'm going to talk about these 4 types of personality communication styles so that we can identify them and try to understand how better to communicate. Every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact and exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles that I'm going to talk about: the passive, the aggressive, the passive-aggressive, and the assertive. It's important to understand each communication style and why individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication style has been found to be the most effective because it incorporates the best aspects of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each style, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. So I'll begin and we'll talk about the passive communicator. Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body posture, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states, "People never consider my feelings." Passive communicators also are easy to get along with as they follow orders and go with the flow. But, there's always a but. In this situation, if you're a passive communicator, you really are not expressing what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and it's very difficult to know what it is that you're thinking and feeling because, it's like no one's there. So if your employer or someone that you're caring for is passive communicator, it's very difficult to care for them because, we have to really dig and work and try to find other ways to understand what is going on in the person's heart and soul, right? Because they're not communicating it to us. Also, if you or I or all of us are as individual are passive communicators, it makes it very difficult for other people to communicate with us, again, because perhaps, they have no idea what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and we're not expressing it. So being a passive communicator is actually not communicating in a very effective way. I must stress that in some social situations or in some cultural situations, not looking at a person, not to look a person in the eye, or not to respond if someone is speaking to you, or not expressing what you're thinking or feeling, may be considered polite or respectful. But in this kind of a work situation, I think it will hinder the relationship. And it's very important to be able to look a person in the eye, especially your employer and perhaps his family and other people in his area, and try to understand what it is they're trying to say, not just by words, but perhaps their body expressions and everything else. And also very important that you communicate exactly what you're thinking, feeling, and so on. So being a passive communicator is not a very effective way to communicate. Aggressive behavior. The aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud, demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, dominating and controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, threatening, or attacking them, along with other traits. This obviously is not a very pleasant or effective way to communicate, because as soon as a person begins with this kind of behavior, talking in a loud voice, intimidating, criticizing, and accusing, and so on, usually the listener turns off completely and is not, and only hears the anger or the tension or the aggression, doesn't even hear what the other person is trying to communicate. So these are usually, if you come across people that communicate in this way, it's always very difficult not to be insulted, not to respond emotionally, right? Because it's an emotional aggression. Again, not very effective. And if our employer or someone in his family is communicating this manner, then we have to, of course, not take it personally, not be insulted, to see it as perhaps some part of, a lack of some other, issue in his personality or in his mental state or in his physical state and so on, and to learn how to assist that person in calming down, relaxing, communicating in a different terms and so on. This is usually very difficult to manage. Passive-aggressive communicators. Passive-aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within he or she may feel powerless or stuck, building up a resentment that leads to seething or acting out in subtle, indirect, and secret ways. Most passive-aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than to confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, and even deny that there is a problem. So obviously, this is a very difficult way to, kind of a communication style that is difficult to deal with, mostly because there are double messages, right? A person is not expressing exactly what he's thinking and what he's feeling. Perhaps he's masking some and expressing something else, the opposite, and so on. And this does not lead to good communication. So being a passive communicator is very frustrating, and also dealing with passive communicators is very difficult and frustrating because you never really know what the person is thinking. They're sending off double messages. The assertive communicator, that's the green light. That's the one with the 5 stars. That's the one that we try to achieve in our own communication style, and hopefully will encounter in our employer. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, feelings, while also considering the needs of others. One of the keys to assertive communication is using the I statement, such as, I feel frustrated when you are late for a meeting, or I don't have to explain over and over. It indicates ownership of feelings and behaviors without blaming other person. So obviously, we always encounter situations that are disagreeable to us, or we don't understand what's going on, and blaming others and finding fault in, other situations is always the easy way out. But best to take, to take, how should I say it, not control, but to be responsible, take responsibility for our own actions, and to communicate directly. Being assertive means looking a person in the eye, saying what you think, what you feel, what you understand from the situation, and responding honestly and directly. So to summarize, what are we talking about? Passive communicators are emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. Passive-aggressive communicators are emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, and self-enhancing at the expense of others later. Aggressive communicators are inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, and self-enhancing at the expense of others. And of course, the assertive communicator is appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing and expressive, self-confident, and empathetic to emotions of all involved. And that, of course, is what we try to achieve in ourselves, and hopefully we'll find in others around us. So let's talk about tools for effective communication. Understanding how others communicate can be a key to getting your own message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Number one, take ownership. Use the I statement. Yes, ownership and responsibility for what you think and what you feel and what you understand from what the situation it demands of you. Maintaining eye contact. Okay, this is very important. I know in some cultures it may not be, so prevalent or in every situation appropriate, but I will go ahead and say that in Israel, especially in the situation that you are in, the eyes are the windows to the heart. And when you have issues of, language and other communication barriers, perhaps disabilities in understanding and sight and hearing, and in so many other issues, looking a person in the eye is so very, very vital in terms of a tool for communication. So please, if you're shy, overcome your shyness and make a really big effort to look a person in the eye when you're speaking to them, okay? Voice your needs and desires confidently, and don't forget to smile. Smiling will do the half of the job of communication in any and in every situation, all right? Remember what we talked about Thursday, rega. If you don't do it with a smile, doesn't communicate the same message. So you got to put a smile in front of everything, okay? Especially when you're new, especially when language is an issue. So communication is all about so many subtle things, very subtle things. How to deal with aggressive behavior, language, or important tips. Here's a YouTube presentation that you can look at your own time, and perhaps you might find it helpful in certain situations. Aggressive behavior is always very difficult to deal with, and aggressive behavior can be in many aspects, okay? Obviously, we talked about last time in sexual harassment or in verbal communication, or even, being passive aggressive or completely passive. All of that may be an expression of aggression and so on. So again, I want to say that in our Israeli culture, we usually do talk in loud tones. We usually do talk over people that are already talking. You may find that, the way people communicate on a whole in Israel is less polite, perhaps, than what you may be used to in your own culture at home and so on. But nonetheless, even sometimes people are very straightforward. But I think some of it's part of the culture. Some of it is, part of a person's personality. very important to understand how people communicate within the family that you're in. The fact that they talk in loud voices may not necessarily mean they are attacking each other. It just may mean that this is how they communicate. And then 2 minutes later, it's all, smiles and singing and dancing. And so very important to be attentive and to learn all the subtle cues that are around you. Okay. And obviously personal, personality types and also culture types, all different, very, very different. Let's talk about something very important now, nonverbal communication. So I think that we are all aware of how important nonverbal communication is in all of our lives. I stress again, smell, touch, hearing, all of those aspects of our life that we think that sometimes we don't pay enough attention to how much they really are part of the way we communicate with each other, or how big of a tool, how much of an important tool this can be for you as caregivers, for us as caregivers of people that are disabled in so many aspects of their life, especially verbally, right? Because we have this language barrier and perhaps other issues of hearing and sight and understanding and so on. So all those other factors are so important in using them in order to make our employers calm, relaxed, safe, happy, and so on. Sight, smell, touch, hearing, all of those things. So along with the 4 communication styles, there is also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words from the spoken, written, or sign language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language, clasped hands indicate closure, tone of voice, physical gestures, standing and touching. I think we all know that the tone of our voice, the pitch of our voice, the rhythm, if our body is, rigid or relaxed, if we, the way we hold our hands, the way we hold our head, our posture, all of those things are sending messages and are a language all of their own. And, part of communication is giving yourself the opportunity to be attentive, to listen, and to learn what all of those things mean in your employer's life cycle, how all of those things are indicative of his feelings, his emotions, his, his physical situation, and also within yourself, So tools for effective communication that I'd like to mention: effective listening. Find out what your patient's opinion is, thoughts, emotions, and try not to make assumptions. And I add, try not to make judgments. So obviously, if you want to build a relationship with someone, especially with your employer, it's very important that you learn about his life, right? What was his accomplishments? What were his triumphs? What were his disappointments? Who are the people that are important to him in his life, his family, his friends? What are his hobbies, if he has any? What he likes, what he doesn't like, what makes him feel happy, what makes him feel sad? Ask to look at family albums. Ask them to tell you stories about anything and everything, right? Most Israelis are immigrants themselves, and they've been new in a new situation perhaps more than once in their life. So you definitely have that kind of a, overlapping situation in your own life, and use that, to try to get to know your employer. Very important to do it in the very beginning of the relationship, right? Because perhaps later on in your caregiving situation, your employer might be more limited in the way he can relate to you, the way, all of his, you're entering his life in a situation where it's a crisis point. He is deteriorating, right? His abilities are becoming more and more limited. So his ability to share with you all of those important things that you need to know about him to care for him better. And so it's important that you do that in the very beginning of your relationship. Reflection, in order to make sure you understand what your patient meant, try to reflect. I understood that you said so and so, I understand. And ask questions, right? And repeat what they say using their own words. Sometimes, or usually, it gives the person of affirmation that he has been heard properly. And of course, empathy. Try to empathize with your patient, even if you don't agree with them. Of course, if you know their psychological, emotional, and physical background, then you can understand what they may be feeling and so on. And of course, the I message, when you talk about your opinion and thoughts, use the word I, right? There are no universal truths. It's your opinion, it's your thoughts, it's your experience, it's your understanding, and so on. Tools for effective communication, 5 stars next to the word patience, right? Be very patient with your patient and his family. The situation is new to them too, and it takes time to get to know each other. Of course, you must understand that work situation that is a regular, work situation, go to work, you deal with people around you, you know what the tasks are involved and so on. Then you go home and you have your own private life. Here, your private life and your work life are going to be intertwined with their private life and their, regular life. So you must be patient with yourself and patient also with the family. In Israel, like in the Philippines, people are very family minded, right? Very family oriented. And so I'm sure there will be more than just your client involved in the care of his situation. Perhaps there's a division of issues, maybe one son or daughter in charge of finance, another in charge of, medical issues and so on. You are on a very high learning curve. You have to learn many, many things about the person's well-being, his medical situation, how to care for him and his body and his property, obviously, and his everything around him. So very important to be patient with your employer and patient with yourself. You're going to make mistakes and it's okay, but be patient that it takes time. And tolerance, 5 stars next to the word tolerance. Even if you don't agree with your patient, try to respect his opinion, right? And again, don't be insulted. If in the beginning in the kitchen or in other aspects of the house, they try to tell you do this, do that, it may not be agreeable to you. Give yourself the time and give them the time to trust you. And then things will feel different and look different. And, and everyone can relax into a more suitable routine. And of course, nonverbal communication. When talking to a patient, maintain eye contact. We say this often because we think it's so important. And try to speak at eye level, okay? This is also very important. What is eye level? Eye level means that if, your employer is sitting down, mostly he'll be sitting or laying, you should be at his eye level. Sit down yourself as well. If you're feeding him, trying to bathe him, talk to him, not someone that, has to look all the way up to you. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. So relax your speech, calm your tone of voice, and, and try to look a person in the eye and communicate exactly how it is. So friends, I invite you, what is your communication style? What in your opinion is the best communication style? What can you do if your patient or your employer in this case is a, difficult communicator, is difficult to handle? Which concerns do you have about your employer? Any other questions, statements, you're welcome to share, and it's your time to talk to us. Anyone like to ask a question or share an experience about communication? Perhaps in a different language or with a person that didn't speak? Five words a day, gotta learn Hebrew. 5 words a day. Gilad, you have something you want to ask or share with us? Dila, you have your mic open. Did you want to say something?
De la Cruz.
De la Cruz. Sorry.
Sorry. I didn't notice that I opened my mic.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
now you did it. So tell us something about yourself. Where are you?
I am here in Yehuda. I just arrived in my employer. So
Oh,
as of now, I
okay.
don't have any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, as of
And who is
yeah,
your employer?
it's Dermon Mir, Dermon Buaz, my employer, and my patient is Dermon Mir.
No, it's a man, it's a woman. Who is it?
Yeah, it's a man, 94
It's a
years
man.
old. Yes,
You're taking care of a man, and how old is he?
94 years old.
Oh my, a very old gentleman. Okay.
Yeah, but he's still strong. He's still in his right mind. So
And the family has decided to bring a woman caregiver and not a man caregiver.
yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe
And have
because
you,
he's still strong.
because
He's still strong. He can manage to do it by himself alone.
okay. Okay. Yes, you look like a petite lady. So perhaps if you have to do, if he's a big, strong man.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting situation. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it. And I have a little bit communication problem. It's because they don't know how to speak English, my patients. So I just need to learn Hebrew.
Okay. What languages does he speak?
They speak fluently Hebrew and Arabic.
And Arabic. Okay.
Yeah. So I just have to learn Hebrew to communicate with them.
Okay.
Yeah, as of now, it's hard, but still it's okay. I can manage.
Okay. Slowly, patience, perseverance.
Yes, correct. I will do that.
Are there other family members living in the home as well, or just you and him?
No, the spouse, the wife, and my patient and me. So we're just
okay. So
in the house.
so there's a wife there as well, and she's also healthy and well.
Yeah, she's healthy. She can walk. She can do by herself.
Okay. Okay. So it's a challenge.
Yes, it's challenging. Yeah, my patient is in a wheelchair, so it's okay. I don't have any problem yet.
Okay, good, good, good. You have the right attitude, and I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yes, I am. I will be, and it must be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share, or about situation they're in, or something they're thinking about? Okay, guys, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we will come back and we'll talk about more important things that are involved in building relationships.
5 minutes, everyone.
5 minutes. Okay, we're back. So if I'm continuing on our subject, here is a YouTube presentation that you can watch about communication with elderly. I just want to say about communication with elderly, sometimes we mistakenly think that, oh, they're just like children again. But I just want to stress that, even though there may be similarities in children not being able to do things in a complete way, okay, not being physically perhaps as agile and as strong and as fast, and perhaps having to, understanding issues, difficulty, but don't misunderstand elderly for children. We definitely don't want to scold them. We definitely don't want to teach them anything. We want to respect them. They've been where you are now. They've been young. They know what it's all about. And this is a different type of life for them. And the fact that they, perhaps are responding slower or, with more difficulty to situations, it doesn't necessarily mean that that they are emotionally as well as not as developed as perhaps you may think or be able to understand. So this is very important, not to think of elderly as children. And I also want to say that communicating with elderly sometimes is difficult because we all have some kind of preconceived notions about elderly people, about Jewish people, about men, about women, about all kinds of things, and give yourself and give your employer the time to get to know them, because I would like to think that elderly people have a whole lifetime of experiences, of understanding, of knowledge, that if you're able to tap into it, your life will be richer because of your encounter with them. Okay? Fields of interest and so on. So my experience has always been that being in the company of elderly people has been an enriching encounter, and I hope it will be for you as well. So the second step in building a relationship is coordination of expectations. And of course, this is very important in any kind of new relationship. When starting a new job and starting a new relationship, each side has expectations, hopes, and concerns. Try to have an open conversation with your patient and his family about their needs and expectations. And it's important that you also express your needs and expectations and try to be honest and open and willing to learn. And again, being willing to learn, you're in a very high learning curve. And I must say that in terms of expectations, very often there are expectations that we talk about and expectations that we don't talk about. So first of all, I'd like to mention a few of the ones that we don't talk about. Okay, we talk about salary, about this, that. Sometimes people have unrealistic expectations, okay, in terms of your employer. So perhaps they expect you to fulfill so many different aspects of the losses of their life, that you'll be their best friend and companion, that they won't be lonely anymore, that you'll be cooking, cleaning, taking care of all their medical issues, financial issues, social issues, gardening, whatever. Sometimes people have, very unrealistic expectations. And obviously this is not possible. And after a while, they understand that, no, it's not possible. It is what it is, and it's good as it is. And also for you, sometimes, caregivers have expectations of being part of the family or other issues. And perhaps your employer is not really interested in having you as part of the family. They're interested in having you as a, professional caregiver, and they expect you to be, on the sidelines as an assistant and standing on the side and not being too much involved. So this is the kind of interaction that takes time to understand what each person's expectations are, and also expectations will change. So be minded towards it. Perseverance, very important. Don't shy away when things are not to your liking at the very beginning, because it's a process of learning what it is they need and what's possible for you and for them and so on. Try to be honest and open to and willing to learn. Honest and open and willing to learn. I think those are the keys. And smile. You got to smile a lot. Communication is very difficult. And understanding expectations and arriving at mutual, agreements on expectations is a process. Don't let yourself think that it's, instantaneous. Along the way, there may be changes in the patient's or your expectations and needs, and it's okay as long as you speak about it, right? So along the way, hopefully you'll have friends, you'll make new relationships with people around you, perhaps, in the neighborhood or somewhere else, and you'll want to see them and meet them and they come visit you, whatever. All of those things are part of the intertwining life that you're going to have with these people. And so it's all a process about talking about things, okay? Where do they expect you to be in the evening, watching TV in the living room or in your own room? Can you sit in the patio? Do you always have to, they always have to see where you're doing and what you're, what you're up to? It's a process. So don't be turned off in the beginning if you're not completely given the trust that you'd like to have. But don't forget, you're a stranger in their home, in their safe place, in their, and it's a process of giving you trust and getting to know who you are. If you maintain good communication, you can always talk again openly about your patient's expectations and your expectations and try to re-coordinate expectations, right? The key to understanding. So building trust, this is the next step. So what's involved in building trust? Trust is the basis of any relationship, especially the relationship with your patient or your employer. And everyone knows that once you lose trust, it is almost impossible to regain it. So we must be very, very careful not to lose trust. So what is trust all about? Reliability, sincerity, integrity, consistency, commitment, and competence. Okay, let's talk a little bit about each one of those. What is trust? Trust is one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on the confidence that the other has goodwill, trustworthy component of honest and openness. It is a shared belief that you can trust someone to achieve a common goal. Well, right now, you're a stranger in their home, and you depend on them and they depend on you, right? Your well-being is also dependent on them, that they should treat you well and take care of you and so on. Being vulnerable is a very big issue when you're when a stranger comes into your home, and everyone at this point is vulnerable, right? I think it's very important that you confidently expose your vulnerability, right? Share with them what you're feeling. And so they will do the same. Okay, so they will do the same. When I say they, I mean your employer and his family. So they must have the confidence that you're there to take care of them, and of course you have to have their confidence that they're going to take care of you. They're not going to abuse you in any way or take advantage of you and so on and so forth. The fact that you're far away from home in a strange country, in a strange place, with no special ability to travel or to do anything else because you're new. So this is a mutual trust that you're going to get to know each other and meet each other's expectations. At the base of trust, there are many elements: respect for others, sincerity, integrity, openness, reliability, consistency, and commitment. So respect for others is very obvious, right? Must respect others. We want to treat others as we would like to be treated ourselves. Sincerity, very important, right? You want to say what's on your mind, look a person in the eye, I said that before, and speak what you're feeling. Integrity is very important, okay? You must be completely honest and open about what what's going on. If you make a mistake, you come up and you say you made a mistake, right? No bad intention. You do it better next time. Openness, very important. You don't want to be secretive. You don't want to be, indirect. Reliability, obviously, you're going to receive a person's trust. They must know that you're going to care for them in the proper way. Food on time, medicine on time, whatever it is that you made in your contract in terms of what your responsibilities are, that they will be carried out to the best of your abilities. And consistency is very important. People everybody has a routine. Everybody likes to do things their way, in a certain way, at a certain time. And you must learn what that is and try to fit yourself into that within your family, okay? When they get up, when they eat, what they eat, you know, what the pace of their life. People usually have a slow pace at this point in their life, and you must fit yourself into that, okay? And consistency. Everybody likes to, you know, feel safe and secure when they know exactly what the routine is. And it's your responsibility to learn the routine and to try to maintain it. And of course, commitment. You have a commitment to care for them, and they have a commitment to care for you. And this is a mutual situation. More ingredients of trust: willingness to be vulnerable. We talked about that. A sense of security that the trust recipient will meet your expectations. Very important, right? You expect it to pay you on time and to care for you if you need something. And they, in return, expect you to give all of your effort, you know, in doing a good job and caring for them. Reliability, a connection between predictability and goodwill, okay? And honesty. So very important. We can't trust someone if we don't think he's honest. And they may even test you, okay? Don't be surprised or offended if they decide to test you, to put things, to hide things. So, you know, very difficult accepting a stranger into your most personal place and, you know, into your home. And you must understand that bringing a caregiver into someone's home is a crisis situation, okay? In spite of the fact that they may agree to it, that, you know, perhaps there's the husband and wife situation. The husband needs it, the wife needs it, they need the help, they agreed, but they really perhaps don't even know what it involves. And even if they've had a caregiver who came in for a few hours and helped clean or help bathe or help cook or whatever, having a live-in person is a totally different thing. And we know how to relate to brothers, sisters, neighbors, friends, cousins, children, whatever. But how to relate to a caregiver that lives in our home is a totally new role, okay? Many of these people perhaps haven't never had employees before, or, you know, live in. Are you a guest? Are you a, you know, how to deal with you is a difficult situation for them. Not to mention the fact that it's an affirmation of their loss, the loss of independence, the loss of abilities to, you know, to function independently. So this is a crisis situation for them. In many ways, it evokes very difficult emotions, okay? So you must be minded on their mind, you know, their mindset, where they are in. And not to be offended, and to try to understand and make them calm and relaxed and confident that you are trustworthy and that you're going to make their lives that much better. Reciprocity, treating others as we would like to be treated ourselves. I think this is very important, and I think that all human relationships are based on that. We want to treat others as we would like to be treated ourselves, right? With honesty and openness and compassion and so on. How to build trust and trusting relationship with our patient, okay? Some effective tools. Remember that your patient opens his most private space for you, his home. And like you, he has concerns, expectations, hopes from this relationship. Give trust and trust yourself, trust your patient, and trust the process of getting to know each other. If you trust the others, they will trust you. Always tell the truth. And if something bothers you, don't keep it inside. Try to talk about it. So again, I just want to tell everybody that, you know, this is a very difficult time of year. I got, you know, I from my experience in life and in work, holidays are so very stressful to everybody, okay? It makes us miss people. It makes us think of, you know, who's there and who isn't and where we are and so on. Very stressful. And this is also holidays, not just for Christians, but also for Jews, right? We're going to have Hanukkah soon. I mean, you know, we just had Hanukkah, and this is, it's just a difficult situation with the corona. Again, everybody anxious, everybody tense, everybody being inside, you know, being suspicious about going out, time of uncertainty. And I think that it's very important that you try to build an open and honest relationship with the people around you. And also, of course, smile a lot, be open and honest, share about your family, about your thoughts, about your, what's going on in your life, and they will be open and be sharing with you. Number 4, creating the Caregiving Alliance. Okay, the Caregiving Alliance consists of 3 essential components: agreeing on the caregiving tasks, agreeing on the goals of the care, and developing a personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communication, which sums up what we talked about generally. Agreeing on the caregiving task, well, at the beginning, it may seem overwhelming, and there might be a long list of things that they expect you to do. And perhaps over time, some of it will be part of the routine, and perhaps other things will not be. But, I just have to tell you that once they get to know you, and they trust that you're doing your best, even if everything on the list isn't exactly as they expected in the beginning, it'll be okay. It really will be. Okay. So there's always the tension of a long list of expectations. And then once they know you and they trust you and they, and you become part of their regular household, that I'm sure that all will be fine. Agreeing on the goals of the care, where that's not something that can be compromised. The goals of the care is, of course, to care for your employer, right? And perhaps his property and, whatever else is involved in that. His physical and hopefully his emotional and psychological part of it will be something that you can assist in as well. And developing a personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communication. This is the basis for it all. The Caregiving Alliance is usually determined at the beginning of the relationship between the caregiver and the patient and constitutes a primary infrastructure for the relationship between them. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiving relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. Okay, so it should be talked about, what your duties would be, taking care, making sure that the medication is in the home, food is in the home, all the utensils that you need. This is a good time for me to say that, firstly, you must know that Israel has a very good healthcare system, and we are all part of one group or another in terms of the health companies, and you are also part of that as your health insurance. And whatever medication or other things that you may need in the caring facility capacity are readily available at almost no cost or very little cost. Wheelchairs and other apparatus that may be assisting you in lifting, bathing, and dressing, and so on. Many assisting issues are available, and if you need something, you should ask your, the family or the social worker and the agency, and so on. And so part of the Caregiving Alliance is learning, what your tasks are, what the daily routine is, and so on and so forth. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiving relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. Absolutely. Everybody likes to know, what's going to happen. Last step, taking into account social and cultural components. Okay, part of the Caregiving Alliance is take into account consideration of social and cultural components. You and your patient come from different culture, and you have different language, lifestyles, customs, and preferences and beliefs. It's okay to express your preference and to keep your customs, but it's better to talk about it and better to reach an agreement. Try to take into account culture, values, customs, traditions, okay, of your patient. This includes food preference, daily routine, and habits. I would assume that this is probably, one of the first times that your employers have had any contact with non-Jewish people or with strangers living in their home in any capacity. So this is a new kind of an experience. Even if they've had other caregivers in their home before, they never had you in their home before with your story, with the things that are important to you. So be open and share about your life, about your family, about your achievements, goals, expectations, and so on and so forth. If you're open about yourself, then they will obviously feel more comfortable to be open with them. I also want to stress the fact that, being of a different culture and living in close vicinity of your employer, you must be minded about, the energy that you are as a young person living in an old person's home, right? So the pace of the way you do things, and even though you think that you can do it better, faster, cleaner, more efficiently, be minded of how they would like you to do it, and do it that way first. And then once they have your trust and are confident that you're doing a good job, then they'll allow you to do things the way that you think are proper or better or whatever. And if not, okay? You must see yourself as an assistant, okay? And social and cultural components, different smells, different sounds, all of those things are very important. Find out, what makes your employer feel warm and safe and comfortable and relaxed, what kind of foods they like, what kind of aromas, what kind, soap and water, touching them. Some people like to be touched, some people don't like to be touched. All of those things are very, very important in creating a trust relationship. So again, I invite you to share, to talk, to ask questions. What do you think is the most complex step? What do you think is the easiest step? Do you have any concerns about forming relationships, about trust? You're not alone. Every step of the way, you can ask people to assist you. Would anyone like to share or ask a question? How about you, Noel? You have a nice name. It's Christmassy. Noel, right? Can you turn your microphone on? Is that your name? Pascual? Noel?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your first name? Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you share something about yourself? I see you have a hat on. What does it mean? You're cold?
I'm still in the isolation facility, ma'am.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think I don't have
anything to share.
Too much to share.
Okay. And where are you going to be working? Do you know?
Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, ma'am.
So you don't know what city you're going to be in?
Ramat Hasharon.
Ramat Sharon. Okay, that's a very nice area. And who will you be caring for? A man, a woman?
A man.
And does he speak English?
No, ma'am.
I see.
Only Hebrew.
Only Hebrew.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you intend to deal with that? Is there someone in the home that does speak English?
Maybe his son, my employer.
Okay. Okay. So you'll need to recruit his help as well in communicating. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Good
Thank you
luck
very
with
much.
that. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share or ask a question about anything that I've spoken about or something else, perhaps?
Hi, Ma'am Sarah.
Hi.
Hi. I had been wondering for like a few days already about is it polite or being like somewhat politeness or I really feel awkward to ask directly my employer about the religion. Because I will be working with the family in Jerusalem, so I'm going to take care of an 79-year-old woman in Jerusalem, and I had been wondering if they are a religious family or not. So is it okay if to ask about the religion in the first place, or
I think it's perfectly fine to ask as many questions as possible. You know, the family that has invited you to their home knows that you are not Jewish, obviously. So they already, understand that you know, very little about their customs and the way they think, or the way they behave in that aspect. And so you must take into consideration that they know that, right? They know that you're not of the Jewish faith, and
Yes.
probably that you know nothing. So the only tip
exactly.
I can tell you is that, every family is very different. And so there are no rules that I can tell you that, the one rule that I will tell you is that be very mindful to listen and to ask as many questions as possible. Sometimes people assume that, it seems so obvious to them that this is, how it's done, or this is what needs to be done. And so, they'll be surprised if you don't do it the same way that they would expect you to. So then that's why you need to ask all of those questions from the morning till the evening. Ask, because they're not going to sit you down and give you a lecture about every detail of their life. So ask, and it's okay to make mistakes.
I like to add something. I think that it simply shows that you're aware, that you are aware, that you know that you've been respectful and understand that you're coming from a different background and they're coming from a different background. And I think they will appreciate that more than you know. I understand that it's awkward for you, but I don't think they will see it that way. I think they will like the fact that you are aware that you're different and that you want to respect their house rules and the way they see it. So it's actually very nice, and it's good that you asked.
I want to add something else with your permission. I want to give an example. Suppose that the family is religious, okay? And religion means that they keep all kind of rules. I want to give an example. The rule of kashrut, of differentiating between milk, dairy, and meat, okay? And in religious families, they have what they call utensils for dairy and utensils for meat. And suppose you come the first day and you don't know, of course, this thing, and you mix or you give like a fork and a spoon from the different type. That can be like a not good example to start. So while you're asking, are you religious? Do you keep the rules? That would be a very good opening. So no mistakes.
Yes, exactly.
And and this way, you'll prevent mistakes in order not to be in conflicts.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe so.
As many questions as possible. And I
Right.
just
Yes.
want to say that, first of all, don't be offended. I keep saying this. Don't be offended if they ask you not to go in the kitchen. Like Yaakov said, some
Okay.
families have a lot of rules about, milk and meat and things that are not
And different
kosher
things.
and so on. And also, eventually you will learn that certain things Jewish people don't do, for example, on holidays or on Shabbat, but non-Jewish people can do, like turn on the light or turn on the oven or use all kinds of other things. So, so don't be surprised if they, perhaps say that you can do this and turn, and do that, but they can't. So yeah, it's a very intricate a learning curve for you. And write things down, and you'll make mistakes, and it's fine. I just want you to know, everybody, when you got a new phone, how long did it take you to get used to it? A day? 2 days? An hour?
Not even.
Not
minutes.
even. Okay.
Weeks,
So-
perhaps
Okay.
months.
Weeks? Okay. Everybody has their own. So I'm using the phone as an analogy to getting used to something good, to something better.
Okay.
Okay. They're going to
Yes.
get used to you so fast. You get used to having something nice in your house, in your life, very, very fast. And you adjust, and it'll be a definite adjustment for them to have a non-Jewish person in their home, and an adjustment for you as well, obviously. But I think it's very accepted. If they've invited you into their home, they already know more or less, what's involved, and I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else like to share some concerns about anything at all? Politics, Corona, Jerusalem is really beautiful. You're going to enjoy it very much. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. Yaakov lives in Jerusalem. He'll tell you.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
welcome
excited.
to the Holy City.
The
You're
whole
gonna
Yes,
see
city.
thank
that-
you. I'm
You're going to see
excited.
that the Jewish religion is crazy about everything.
Very intense place to live. Very intense. Anyone else like some comments or anything at all about any questions about any subject? So Anat, what are we expecting tomorrow? What's on the schedule?
So tomorrow, hopefully it will work out. Sorry about that. Hopefully it will work out, but we are expecting an experienced caregiver who will join our meeting. So I will text you a bit later and inform you officially that it's going to work. And if so, I will ask you to think about the question. If something, excuse me, but I have a needy cat here. So hopefully she will join us. She will share about her experience. And if you have any questions, I want you to feel free to ask those questions. And she's lovely and she will be happy to answer on anything.
Who's joining us, Nympha?
אני אשתף אותך אחר כך.
Okay.
Later on, I will let you know which one it will be. So I wish you all a pleasant evening. later I will send you the links, the link for today's meeting and the links that you use on the presentation. Beside that, for the last one who joined during the meeting, I'm glad you could join us. Please, if you're sitting in a group of more than one person using one device, please write me on a private message or on the Viber group. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. I'll see you
Hi,
tomorrow.
everyone. Talk to
Bye.
you tomorrow again. Lehitraot.
Thank
Later.
you.
להתראות.
you.
See you tomorrow.
See you.
Lehitraot.
Bye-bye.